Hello, everybody. It's me, Tommy and C2010, back here with another epic live stream. And there's no particular narrative to this, but we're going to wait until some people come in here and we'll get things going. And I don't know what story I'm going to. Sorry if my phone's vibrating. I get notifications all the time. But I decided to go live with you guys. And Okay, we got a viewer. Hello. Hello to everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. And what can I talk about today? That would be the story might be not be true. It might be fictional. Okay, I got a story for you. It's about a character that I created a while back ago when I was in high school, and his name was let's call him Joe. Let's call him Joe Face, and he was born a face, and he was one of the most good-looking faces out there, and he got into the modeling business, worldwide syndication modeling. He would go on and put his face on anything, and he would model, and he was like a floating face. But he became one of the biggest celebrities in the world, and everybody wanted to be Joe Face. Everybody wanted to be like him, and he would pose with celebrities, and he was a floating face. Basically, that's all he was a floating face. And don't ask me. Thank you, Danny MT, for the $1.99 donation. Thank you. And he was a floating face that would pose, and you'd say, Tommy, what the heck are you talking about? Like, it's a character I would draw, and I drew him on little different things. He posed with, like alligators next to his face. He was on National Geographic. He did everything. He was a worldwide icon, and he would go. He would travel the world, posing, doing different pictures with different celebrities, and like he was one of the biggest names of his time, and he would go all around the world, and people loved him. People praised him. People wanted to be him, but he was just a face. He was just this face that would fit in on like the background of a face or something like that. And he grew up in the late '80s, so through the '90s and mid 2000s, he was getting older. His face was, getting older and wrinklier, and during his time, every celebrity has that moment of decline, and he got into that moment, and he had married a very lovely woman, and she loved him too. And don't ask me how he manages to, like that, like don't ask me. I didn't even create like the idea of him having a child, but eventually they have other faces, and he discovers that he has a horrible skin face disease, and it's incurable, and he ends up at the end dying of that, and people mourn his life in the end of the story of Joe Face, and like this icon mogul in his world. Everybody loves him. He's been on posters. He's been on like bubblegum. His face is everywhere. People love him. You know, um, that's one of the other little stories that I've created. Let me think of another story that I have thought of. Okay, I don't know if I ever told this one, but it's an idea on the Batman and the Joker, and it is a Western look on the two characters. So in the West and the East, there's bad guys and good guys. In this small little town, there was a sheriff and a woman, which that sheriff was in love with that woman, and they wanted to be married, but there was a bad guy. The bad guy didn't like the sheriff. He was madly in love with the woman that wanted to marry the sheriff. So the bad guy said, well, he's not going to marry her. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill him and her because I'm not going to lose that happiness. I want her. She will be mine. And, you know, the thing is that the kind of the quarrel here, William, you know I'm live. Don't call me. You hear me, buddy? Don't call me. You know I'm live. So don't call me. I'm sorry to chew you out, man, but I'm live. Okay? So what happens is, like, the sheriff and the bad guy don't like each other at all. They hate each other's guts. And he has arrested the bad guy in the past. And one day, the sheriff says, okay, we're going to set it up. We're going to get married at the old church. At the church. It's a big, beautiful white church. Small little, actually, no. It's a small little church on the edge of town. And the town is it's like on a cliff that faces out towards the sunset. And whenever the sun is going down, it's like everything darkens in the town. So they go out there and they're getting ready to marry. The bad guy has been out riding horses all day. He comes into town and he sees that everybody's at the church. And he realizes that the sheriff is getting married. So him and his gang ride up on the church and bust in and he says, you want to marry that woman? Well, you're not. You don't get to have her. He's like, what are you talking about? He pulls out his gun. He shoots her. Kills her. She falls to the ground. And he pulls out his gun. You know, the sheriff tries to pull his gun out, but it's stuck in his holster. And the bad guy fires and he hits the ground. He's like, well, I guess I just crashed this wedding. And they set a fire in the church, and the church is on fire, and they ride out. And as the church is burning down, everybody freaks out, and here comes this short little man, kind of, witch doctor, kind of twitchy, kind of weird looking man, short, has a hunch on him, kind of a bit of a hunch, He walks into the burning church and sees the woman and ignores her body because she sees she has passed on. Gosh, my God, these notifications are aggravating the snot out of me. I'm sorry if it's aggravating you. It's aggravating me too because there's 1,000. I don't know why the notifications keep going off. But so what happens is the witch doctor takes the sheriff, and he takes him down to a hut, and and then realizing the sheriff wasn't actually shot. The sheriff was shot in the face. The bullet grazed his face but made this smile on his face. And it slice opens his face, and the witch doctor sews his face up and does some magical spell on him and revives him. Well, as he's using this dark magic, as the witch doctor is using, he doesn't just bring the sheriff back. He brings the sheriff. Because as soon as the sheriff wakes up, red forms in his eyes. Just this dark red forms in his eyes, and his face, fills up with a smile. And he stands up, and he's looking around, and he looks at the witch doctor. He grabs the witch doctor by the face and just says, ha, ha, smile. And he breaks the doctor's face. He takes a knife and he stabs the doctor in the face. And the doctor falls to his knees and he just starts laughing. Just psychotically starts laughing, like just because what he just did. And he puts his jacket on, he gets on a horse, and he rides out. And he tries to compose himself, and he gets to a mirror, and he looks at himself, and he realizes he is so disfigured. He just because of the bullet and it's carved up his face, he decides that he needs a new identity, and that's where he finds some makeup and he paints up his face. And yes, this is the Joker. So that you understand, this is the Joker, a Western version of the Joker. So he's going to have some Western look to him, and he basically goes and he tracks down the bad guy, and he has been kind of figuring out his look, but he is now looking like the Joker, and he hasn't really said what his name is yet. And so he gets to where he finds out he has tracked down the bad guy. He comes in to the saloon and he sees the guy, like you hear do do boop boo do but do. It's a saloon. There's cigar smoke. There's whiskey in the air. There's women everywhere playing, with the men and stuff like that. It's just a good time. Cowboys are just all sitting around having a good time. And he comes in. He's got this kind of cowboyish purple suit with, like rattleskin boots, like weird shaping, but his hat is tipped down. Like he's not showing people his face. He's not showing people his makeup face, his makeup psychotic look face. And he kind of has a limp. He's dragging his feet, looking around. He has a cigar in his mouth, just looking around the saloon. And he knows where he's going. He's smart. He knows that he's going to the table where the bad guy is, and he kind of plays like he doesn't know what he's doing. And he goes over the saloon, and he goes, and he's like, nah. He kind of grunts at the bartender. The bartender slides him a whiskey. He pulls a cigar out of his mouth, takes a shot of whiskey, looks around with a grunge look on his face, like he doesn't want to really talk to anybody. He doesn't really say much to anybody. Kind of keeps to himself, looking around. And he goes to sit down. He goes up to the table where the bad guy is, and all these other gang members are, I'm guessing, gang members that are sitting there. He's like, what do you want? He's like, and he actually says something. He says, I'd like to have a seat. Mind if I play with you guys? He's like, we're just starting a round. Sure, the last guy we had in here, he was cheating, so I shot him. And, of course, he looks down and he sees the blood stain on the ground. 2 seconds before he had come in, a guy was playing cards and he was cheating, and the bad guy realized he was cheating, so he shot him. And then the bartender said, now listen here. You keep doing that, and I'll throw you out of here. And he's like, I do what I want. You understand me, son? I do what I want. Yeah, he's that. This guy's that, gritty. He's just typical bad guy. All black hair, black. Just vicious to the nine. He, people. And you say, what's the bad guy's name? Well, people called him Black Eye Kelly because he had one black eye. Thanks so much for the $1 donation. I appreciate that. He had one black eye. That's the thing about him. How about, that was his name, Black Eye Kelly. And the interesting thing about Black Eye Kelly was he had this reputation causing trouble in town. And he had shot the bank teller. So his like he realized he had just shot the bank manager had came in and was cheating. So his plan was to, after he had done that, he was going to go into the bank and steal all the money. Well, he didn't depend on this stranger walking in and confronting him. And so what happens is he says, "You mind if I sit down?" And so what happens is, as they're sitting there, he's like, "What you play?" He's like, "I play poker." He's like, I'm not a good hand of poker." He's like, "Fine, that's what we're going to play anyway." And so they're playing and they're talking about their situation. He's like, "So, stranger, where you from?" He's like, "I preferably just don't like to talk about my background. I do all sorts of stuff. I've seen a bunch of people and I've done a lot of things." It's like, "You ever loved a woman?" Kind of snickers, like, "What's funny about that?" He's like, "I loved the woman. She was taken from me out of pain and sorrow." "What are you laughing about, son? What are you laughing about, stranger?" "Oh, I'm just laughing. Don't mind me. Don't mind me at all. Oh, don't mind me." He reminds you he has his hat tipped down. You can't see him. "Why can I not see your face?" "There's no reason for you to see my face." "Excuse me?" "There's no reason to see my face. You'll find out who I am eventually." He chuckles, kind of like a psychotic chuckle. They're playing cards and they're just going back and forth. The pool hall, the saloon is filling up with cigar smoke, and just it's going on later into the evening as they're playing cards. And they finish the round. He's like, "You played a good round." He's like, "Are you working with anybody particularly?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "My name's Black Eye Kelly." He's like, "I've heard of you. You're iconic here in the West, in the North, in the South. Everybody knows about you." He's like, "Yeah, you seem like a character that would want to work with my gang." He's like, "I don't know. I don't really run with a crew. I'm kind of a lone wolf kind of guy." He's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "You want to know my name?" He's like, "Yeah." He says, "Hand me that deck of cards." He's like, "Okay." He slides it over and he stabs it with his knife, pulls the card up, and then pulls it upside down, points at him, and it says Joker. He tips his face up, and they see his makeup gloss face with a red smile and black eyes. He says, "You're the devil." He's like, "And you're my first victim." And slam! He stabs him. He just slabs the knife into the Black Eye Kelly's chest. He's like, "A smile for a smile, Black Eye Kelly. It's your end." And then he pulls, of course, Joker pulls out his gun and bam, 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 and is just laying off shots one at a time. And he's holding Black Eye Kelly with the knife in his chest. And Kelly is just cursing him out. He's like, "You no good son of a gun. Pull that knife out of my chest." But he's dying, but he has the knife stuck in his chest. Joker has literally pried the knife into his chest with the card, and he kills the whole entire gang. And he looks back to Kelly. He's just like, "You remember me, don't you? You remember that? Don't you remember the church? Don't you remember her? Don't you remember?" He's like, "I do a lot of things in my life." I'm just trying to mimic that's like, he's coughing up blood. He's like, "I don't know who you are." He's like, "Don't you remember the sheriff's wedding you interrupted? Don't you remember? Don't you?" He's like, "You." He's like, "When you shoot somebody, remember, always aim for the head." Shoots at Black Eye Kelly in the head. and then walks out. And from that day forward, he starts up a gang, calls it the Joker Gang. And along that way, uh, he uh, he becomes this legend in the West. And then, of course, there's like a Western Batman. So Batman comes into the picture, and he kind of like has like a hood, but looks like Zorro, but he's like a bat figure. But the whole entire story plays out between these two, and it's it's an interesting story, which I don't want to bore you guys, but it's kind of a teaser of what the story would be, and I would love to sell it to DC Comics to be, I love to sell it to. If I could, I would go to DC Comics and sell it to them, make a decent amount of money off of it, maybe, and be a part of it, the writing, be a part of the creative, you know. So, it's something I thought of. I call it the Joker Western, maybe like an origin story. It would connect to the ancestry of the Joker and Batman and where they come from, but it'd be the great grandfather of the Batman, the Waynes, or something like that. He would still be like a great great grandfather to the family legacy of the Waynes. And it would just be something interesting, creative. Like, if I could ever pitch it to DC and actually sell it to them, even though it's their own characters, but it'd be something different because they have a Japanese kind of like the Joker and Batman. It'd be interesting to see something like cowboys with westerns. And it's funny. I actually created this storyline by just looking at a picture on a story about a cowboy, and I imagined the Joker appearing like as a cowboy in the Western days, and I thought of it be creative. So, folks, I'm going to end it off here, and I want to say thank you for listening to this story. I had a great time with you guys, and as always, thank you for everybody that donated here in the super chat. And as always, folks, I'm keeping you on the inside fact. Subscribe, support, stay positive. Catch you later, folks.